You know what we haven't talked about in a while on the Metal Meltdown? Some good old-fashioned Swedish death metal brutality, precision, and firepower. So you know what? Let's switch things up today. No more high-concept prog and alternative metal. No more super popular and potentially controversial metalcore. Let's talk about some nasty, kick-ass death metal from Aeon. Hell yes. God Ends Here is the sixth studio album from Swedish death metal crew Aeon, and I'm shocked to learn their first in nearly 9 years following the release of Aeon's Black in 2012. Shocked because A, if I'm not mistaken, they've stayed relatively busy over the course of the past 9 years, playing some festivals, doing some tours. I remember even seeing them open for Behemoth and Cannibal Corpse, back in April of 2015, and B, because everyone I talk to seems to really love them. Aeon are kind of seen as being one of the most consistent and entertaining kind of modern death metal bands. The legendary Alex Webster of Cannibal Corpse fame has even gone on to say that Aeon's musicianship is among the best in death metal, but their songwriting is what truly sets them apart. It's rare to find a death metal band that is simultaneously crushingly brutal and infectiously catchy. A statement that Alex kind of doubled down on when I spoke to him here on the Metal Meltdown earlier this year. So why exactly did it take so long for Aeon to release a new studio album? In all honesty, I don't really know, and I kinda don't fucking care either, because the wait doesn't matter so long as it's worth it. And I feel that it is worth it. To paraphrase Alex Webster, I would go as far as to say that God Ends Here is one of those rare death metal albums that is crushingly brutal and infectiously catchy. It's got all the crunchy riffs, cutthroat grooves, battering percussion, nasty, hellish, acidic lyrics and vocals that one could possibly want from an album of this variety from a band like Aeon, delivered with genuine precision and skill and malice. The arrangements are very technical and articulate, and there are some orchestral sections and some choir sections and a lot of layered vocal harmonies and subtle melodies. It's abundantly, transparently, almost inarguably clear to me that the output of 2010's Cannibal Corpse played a huge part in influencing and shaping the sound, the size, and the scale and the production of this record, as did material from Hate Eternal, Morbid Angel, some of the earlier, more death metal-centric stuff from Revocation. But what ultimately separates God Ends Us Here, and by extension Aeon, from a slew of other records from all of the bands we've mentioned and many more, is how hate specifically fuels and drives and moves this album forward. There is a very sincere and almost unfathomable level of hatred motivating this album from start to finish, and all of it is directed squarely at organized religion and more specifically Christianity. It is very truly and unapologetically an anti-Christian record. And in that sense, spiritually, I feel like this is more akin to some modern Creator, to records like Phantom Antichrist and Gods of Violence. And in a time where the Christian right is going out of their way to be unruly, to be uncooperative, and to oppress people, yeah, I can't help but kind of vibe with a lot of what Aeon is saying across this record. And intentionally or not, all of this information makes God Ends Here such an immediately brutal and provocative and poignant record. Take, for instance, on Despise the Cross, with its very classic Morbid Angel immolation grooves dripping with slime and blood and malice. Or tracks like Deny Them Eternity and Church of Horror, which are filled with chunky, meaty grooves. The only thing chunkier and meatier than this is Grandma's homemade beef stew. And I love you, Grandma, but you ain't making anything as spicy as this. as well as the double whammy combo of The Nihilist and Liar's Den, both of which open this record on an incredibly bold and triumphant note. From the very moment in The Nihilist where that grueling heavy metal guitar harmonizes with that very deep, low, satanic, almost Gregorian-style chanting, these tracks just bleed pure evil. Liar's Den especially boils over with rage and intensity. I'm honestly reminded of the very declarative and provocative death metal I would normally expect from a younger band like Venom Prison. The vocal harmonies on the latter half of this track in particular are devastating. It literally sounds like tortured souls crying out in agony from the boiling pits of hell. Though I gotta say, the award for craziest, most intense, most grueling and brutal track on the record has to go to the title track, God Ends Here. An intentionally somewhat slower and monotonous cut, emphasizing some more demonic chanting, some operatic wailing, amongst some very slow, brooding, groove-laden death metal. There is no doubt in my mind that if the actual apocalypse started tomorrow, Satan would burst out of hell playing this out of a motherfucking boombox. This is some devilishly, deliciously evil shit. Especially with that very declarative hook near the end of this track, where the band repeatedly shouts out, God ends here. If that doesn't make you just want to like throw some shit down and light something on fire, I honestly don't know what would. Now, I will concede, as much as I'm really digging this album, it's far longer than it ultimately needs to be. I mean, there are 16 tracks on this album, and a quarter of them are interludes, none of which really add anything to the album conceptually or atmospherically. Honestly, you could probably snip, snip, snip every single one of these and lose absolutely nothing. In fact, you would gain a much tighter and more cohesive record, in my opinion. But honestly, that is the closest thing to a criticism or complaint I have for this record. Everything else on here, I kinda fucking love. It is nasty, it is heavy, it fills me with rage and spirit and pure fucking evil. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I think it's a fucking great record. No doubt in my mind, if you consider yourself a death metal maniac, you're gonna love this record. You're gonna go fucking berserk for this record. You're gonna be moshing and headbanging and breaking coffee tables in your living room while listening to this fucking record. And more goddamn power to you. The extremely anti-Christian nature of the record, I can definitely picture turning some people off, but then again, the album is called God Ends Here, so you kind of should know what you're getting into beforehand, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like a devout Christian trying to listen to God Ends Here would be the equivalent to a hardcore vegan going into a butcher shop. Guess what, Kathy? They don't sell tofu. Fucking deal with it. I still don't really know why exactly it took so long for this album to come out, but I'm happy it did because holy shit, it's heavy, it's wild, it's evil, it's nasty, it's fun, it's everything you could really want and so much more from a truly great death metal record. 4 out of 5. Holy shit, definitely check this thing out, folks. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately in case you somehow aren't already. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.